Most people think luxury is extra and excess. It is not. Luxury is what you refuse to do. I am Burnett King, the founder of Noble Crown Fragrances, a company dedicated to elevating your space through the power of scent. The Noble Crown podcast is here to talk about the business of building a fragrance brand with tips, advice, and lessons learned that will help you reach your goals faster and learn more about the industry. Welcome to episode 3 of the Noble Crown podcast. Today is another audio only episode, but for those of you tuning in through YouTube, please like and subscribe as it helps spread the content to others. Today's episode is for founders who want to build high-end luxury brands without burning capital they don't have. So we're not discussing how to pretend to be a luxury brand. We're discussing how you earn it through the privilege of being perceived as a luxury brand. We're also going to talk about what actually creates luxury and what can destroy it. So I think that luxury is created through consistency, restraint, and intention, not necessarily through spending. And why this matters is because most early founders overspend in the wrong places, and that ends up diluting your luxury brand. So they spend on things like packaging before product and aesthetics before process. This episode explains how to build a brand that feels expensive while operating lean. So first, we're going to define luxury or redefine luxury. We're going to talk about what luxury is not. So luxury is not expensive materials without justification. It's not excessive SKUs. It's not trend chasing aesthetics. And it's definitely not copying other established luxury brands without having their infrastructure to support it, right? People understand how you could just be copying a brand to try to emulate luxury. And there are definitely themes and concepts that you can take from other brands, but you shouldn't directly copy another brand because it will come off as that. It will come off as a fake copy. So what is luxury? Luxury is predictability, editing, confidence in fewer choices, and a customer who feels heard because you solve their specific problem. So luxury brands are calm and exclusive, right? Remember those two words, calm and exclusive. Now, I'm going to kind of give you a framework here. I like to work on frameworks so you guys can kind of take the notes and take what you need and apply it to your business. So I'm going to talk about the 5 levers of perceived luxury. Lever number 1 is constraint as a design tool. So when I say constraint, I mean kind of reducing or boiling your products and your SKUs down to a level that is manageable and perceived as exclusive, right? So fewer scents, fewer sizes, and fewer messages, right? You can't have message. So marketing is a big part of luxury and being perceived as a luxury brand. And if you have a bunch of different messages that aren't focused and don't have always a luxurious tone, that can also be a part of constraint, right? And learning how to constrain that. Mostly because constraint forces clarity. So clarity around what you're selling, clarity around who your customer is, clarity around your message and how you are solving a problem for that customer and why you should be considered above other brands. So I'll give you a little story here around assortment, right? So all of this, this kind of inventory management and what you carry and what you don't carry is called assortment in the retail business. And I can talk about having over assortment when I first started, right? And if you listen to the other episodes of the podcast, you know that I started my first collection with 10 different scents. I don't recommend that, right? You can listen to, how to start a candle business in 2026 if you want more tips on how to start and how to pick what you start with. But I started with too many things, right? Jars is a great example. So I started with too many sizes, right? So when I first started, I had 2 sizes of candles instead of just focusing on one. I had too many colors, right? So I offered my core collection in white and black. And then I started expanding into other colors and other sizes. And so my SKUs just became crazy, right? And if you think about most luxury brands, they're kind of known for either iconic products or iconic categories, right? Something that they own or a style that they own. And it's usually around one product. And they can do variations on that product, but usually they have a core set that they repeat over and over and over again, and that's what their customers come to expect. So, avoid the urge to kind of expand in every direction, even if it's around one product. You really want to focus and have clarity. So lever 2 on our list of perceived luxury levers, right, is consistency over novelty. So we just talked about this a little bit, right? So having the same vessels. So if you're doing, perfumes or candles or reed diffusers, try to stick to one vessel. Make sure that you know what color or what style your customers like and stick with it. Don't change it up constantly. Make sure that once you know what that customer wants, have that consistently over time, kind of always accessible. This goes to having the same photography logic, right? So really having a style to your photography. So not the same picture over and over again. I don't literally mean that. What I mean is having a style, a brand style guide that dictates, hey, here's what our photos should look like. Here's the kind of image that people expect. And it doesn't necessarily have to be what everybody else is doing, right? It just needs to be consistent. And when someone sees that picture, they know that that's your brand. Similarly, you want a consistent tone in your messaging, your the copy that you write for your Instagram channel or for emails, right? You want to kind of have the same style and tone so people come to expect that over time. Customer trusts what repeats, right? If you're saying it over and over again, eventually the message sinks in, and that's whether it's through visual style or through brand tone. Lever number 3 is editing is the brand, right? So editing is key. Killing products is actually a luxury move, right? Again, if you go back to calm and exclusive, part of being exclusive is having a limited set of things accessible by a limited number of people. And so you want to kill products that aren't working for your brand. This is a hard one for me, right? Like all of my fragrances are my babies. It's hard to kill a product, but you have to understand that some things just don't sell well and some things don't resonate with your audience. And so you need to reduce those items in your product lineup. Also, saying no builds confidence, right? So know what you're not going to create. Know what products you aren't going to put out there in the world and who you're not serving, because that actually tells people, hey, this is a strong brand that knows its customer and knows what they want. Also, explain why your brand is obvious in hindsight, right? So explain why people should have automatically thought of your brand to solve whatever product or problem that you're trying to solve. Make it sound like you are extremely confident, even if you're not. The fourth lever is around operational calm, right? So this is one that's a little behind the scenes, but is so key to building a luxury brand, right? So late shipments, substitutions, all of that kind of erodes luxury instantly. If you're constantly having to apologize for your shipping or for products that aren't available or, screwing something up for a customer, then you need to streamline your operations before trying to charge luxury prices. All of this behind the scenes piece is the quickest way to erode luxury if things are going wrong. Customers notice and appreciate when things run smoothly. So these systems might be invisible, but the absence of them is very visible and is felt by customers. The fifth lever, and what a lot of people focus on, is pricing, right? So I always say price with integrity. So the first and most important thing is actually underpricing damages perception more than higher pricing, right? So if you're undervaluing your products and your services, that is not seen as a luxury thing, right? If it's too accessible, again, we're going back to exclusivity. If it's too accessible, then you can't be considered a luxury brand. You'll never be considered a luxury brand. So how do you achieve these luxury prices? Like, how do you set these luxury prices? Well, you need to explain through quality. You need to explain why this product or service is worth so much, so much money, right? You don't want to get defensive about it. I can tell you a story about like when I did markets, and oftentimes I was the most expensive kind of fragrance vendor there, whether that was for candles or perfumes or other products. And I would have customers that would try to negotiate prices with me at the markets. They say, oh, this candle's too expensive. I can't afford that. Would you take X instead of Y? And I would never put them down, right? I understand people's money is valuable to them, but I would explain to them why this candle was worth more than others that they might be seeing at the same market or out there in the marketplace. You talk about the ingredients, you talk about the vessels, you talk about the design, you talk about all of the ways that your product is unique. and your price reflects that. So your pricing should always reflect the ingredients and materials used. On the opposite end, don't overcharge for cheap ingredients, right? If you know you're using inexpensive materials, you can't necessarily charge outrageous prices for that. Now, do luxury brands do this? Yes, of course. But I would say you should really be focused on the quality of your materials. And as you increase the quality of your materials, right, you might not start out with like the best materials or the best ingredients, but as you increase that over time, you can also increase your price, right? People don't like to increase prices over time, but especially when you're starting out, it's very easy to change pricing and to test what works. So those were the 5 levers. I'll go over them really quickly again. Constraint as a design tool, right? Stay on message. Number 2 is consistency over novelty. Consistency is key. That's what customers expect. Number 3 is editing the brand. So editing is a good thing. You want to have a smaller selection that appeals to your customer base. Lever number 4 is operational calm. So get your operations straight. Don't mess up the customer experience. Number 5 is pricing with integrity. So price for the integrity of your materials and ingredients. So next, we're going to talk about where a lot of founders go wrong with wasting money trying to look luxurious, and what some of those common traps are. So first is over-engineering packaging, right? So most luxury brands have simple but high quality packaging. You don't want something that has too many parts and pieces and messages and colors. You want to stay kind of minimal, and you want to stay simple. And this actually helps with pricing, right? So you don't, especially when you start, you want to try to keep things low cost because you may not have the funds or the capital to have super fancy packaging. But really, simplicity is key here. Don't over engineer it. Another place, and we talked about this earlier, is where founders waste money is too many vessel variations. Start simple, start consistent. You can expand later. Resist the urge to have something for everyone. Again, calm and exclusivity. Customizing everything too early, right? So customization is great for an individual customer, but uniformity and minimalism actually reads more luxurious than variety. And then seasonal chaos instead of core excellence, right? So people like, especially in the candle business, right? We make a lot of money in Q4 during holiday time, right? And so fall and winter, seasonal aspects, seasonal scents. It's okay to have seasonal offerings, don't get me wrong, but luxury customers, right, and most importantly, repeat customers expect your core offering to be available and high quality all year long. So if you're diverting your money towards seasonal launches and, kind of things always coming out and new, that means you're not spending it on elevating your core experience and core products. So where do you spend your money, right? You have a limited budget. Everybody has a budget. So where should you spend your money? I would say spend it on product reliability. And we talked about this in episode 1, but product reliability is your key focus. You want your products to behave the way that they should, and you want them to perform at a high quality level for your customer. Photography consistency. So we talked about this a little earlier, right? Make sure your style is consistent. It doesn't necessarily matter what that style is. That style obviously should resonate with your customer base, but you want it to be consistent and not necessarily a high quantity. Now, social media, right? There are benefits to putting out lots of messages and getting your message out there over and over again, but you want to make sure that the style is consistent. You also want to spend on reliable, repeatable suppliers, right? So I spend a lot of time, energy, and money on testing suppliers, getting samples from them, understanding their shipping and lead times, making sure that I can get the products I need when I need it, right? Those are things where you want to spend money. You might want to spend a little extra money on a reliable, repeatable supplier rather than something that is quick and trendy and easy to get now, but may not be out there in the future. And then also spend on inventory discipline, right? So not creating too much. This kind of erodes margins because you're constantly having to run sales to discount inventory that you can't get through. And that's something I'm working on for this year, 2026, right? Is I want to be more thoughtful about which products I'm producing at what times of year and in what quantity, so that I'm less reliant on sales. Sales events are, you're always going to have probably a sale. Most brands have a sale. Some luxury brands never put anything on sale, right? And it's rare, but you want to make sure that your all year round pricing is at the right level and your inventory supports that level. So don't overspend again on endless variants, endless SKUs, experimental packaging, trendy cycles, and kind of seasonal excess launches. So we're going to recap this episode and kind of bring it all to what are the key points that you want to take away. Luxury is restraint, not excess, right? So restraint, calm, editing things down. Consistency beats creativity when money is tight, right? So you might have this amazing idea. Trust me, I have hundreds of fragrances that I want to create, but I need to be consistent with the ones that I already have before I go and spend money on options that are not proven, right? So rather than moving on to something new all the time, take what sells well and elevate it even more. If you can make your products better, your core products that are selling well better, you can charge higher prices for them, elevating your kind of luxury status or your luxury perception. Another thing, calm operations create trust. Trust is the key to having a luxury brand or building a luxury brand. Once customers trust you that you're going to have a consistent experience, that they're going to get their packages on time, that they're going to get the same burn on that candle, that they're not going to have to return items because they're going to be broken. All of those kind of things. You really want to create trust, and that will elevate your brand. Edit before you add. Remember, take things away before you go and add more. Spend where customers feel it. So this is a good point that we didn't touch on too much, but make sure you're spending your money where the customers are actually going to notice. Again, I think this is about product quality. So not always packaging. So packaging looks good at first, but most people honestly throw your packaging out, right? They're not keeping your packaging for a very long time. And so you want to focus on things like the quality of your vessels, and the quality of your ingredients. That's where customers actually feel the quality rather than where they, a founder or your business might see it. And then don't be afraid to raise prices, right? This is once you establish all these other things, don't be afraid to raise those prices. You want some level of exclusivity if you're trying to build a luxury brand. This is not a brand for everybody, right? Your products should be respected in their value, and pricing can often reflect that. So that's been it for today. My name is Burnett King, and this is the Noble Crown Podcast. Again, if you're listening to this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. It really helps get the message out there, and I will see you in the next one.